Hello and welcome to Moneylife. This is Sucheta Dalal. This week we are going to talk about the Prime Minister's Diwali gift, which is a reduction in GST. Obviously, all of us are celebrating it. But do you realize that when it comes to business and industry, timing is everything? If the PM's gift doesn't come in time, most businesses are going to lose the biggest selling phase in the year, which is the festive season. Prime Minister Narendra Modi promised next generation GST reforms as a Diwali gift to India on Independence Day. He triggered hope of reduction and rationalization of the tax into two primary slabs and overall relief for all. Everybody was jubilant. However, businesses and consumers are both watching with trepidation to see whether the tax actually lights up the festive season, which is starting now, and that kickstarts the economy, or will it just fizzle out in confusion and disappointment all over again? It's happened so often that we don't dare to hope. The Prime Minister's promise is undeniably appealing, and we greeted it with joy. But rationalization of GST slabs, simplified compliance for small businesses, faster refunds, all of which could lead to structural shifts and spark high consumption, has to happen within a time frame. And every day counts because that promise without a quick decision will mean that the gift throws India's biggest sales season into chaos and disruption. Now, what do I mean by this? The festive season in India traditionally drives 30 to 40% of annual sales in several, or rather limited product categories. In India, this begins, some would say, with Independence Day sales that actually were started to give a kickstart to the monsoon blues. So people don't go out and shop in the rain, give them discounts. That's how the festive season kind of stretched to 15th August. It goes on to Dussehra, Diwali, different parts of the country celebrate it in a big way. Now, this year it would start just before Navratri and extend up to Diwali, which is 20th October. This year there is a problem. From 7th to 22nd September is what is called the Shraddh period, when most Indians do not do anything auspicious, house purchases, whatever. So really the season is from 22nd September for most people. We as consumers have the luxury of deciding at the last moment what to do. We will wait. We want to make a big purchase. We'll say, let the GST slabs come into play and then I buy it. Businesses don't have that luxury. They have to work far in advance, actually 2 to 3 months. They ramp up production as much as 20%. They hire seasonal workers. They fine tune inventory with data analytics. They boost sales through marketing campaigns, discounts, offers, especially for high margin goods like electronics, appliances, automobiles, and of course, apparel, which most people splurge on. In fact, fashion and electronics dominate festive season buying. Mobiles and lifestyle goods comprise 50% of sales. In fact, past data suggests that 33% is spent on apparel, 27% on mobiles, 18% on electronics, with jewelry and automobiles also showing major spikes on auspicious days. And of course, people buy property. So until the Trump threat and the PM's Diwali promise, e-commerce alone was expected to contribute 1.2 lakh crores in gross merchandise value, which is 27% higher than what was expected in 2024. The Trump tariffs have put all that into disarray. Now, of course, GST, because a delay in announcing new GST rates could shatter the momentum of even the spending that was expected to happen. There are high expectations built up, and any divergence from what consumers, investors, and industry expect would itself have a negative impact. Consumers, remember, are already deferring purchase decisions on high value items such as cars, televisions, because they expect an 8 to 9% drop. Not the very high end ones, but what most people buy. On the other hand, retailers, e-commerce, and quick commerce players are worried about the chaos over pricing. Remember, even if prices are set, they have to get their systems in order on a national basis, get their invoicing right, and they have to first of all understand what each of the GST slabs, classifications, nomenclatures mean. And I'm going to come to that a little later. If nothing else, businesses are already finding it difficult to launch marketing campaigns with clear price offers, And according to experts, they're even hesitating to build inventory in anticipation of higher sales because you don't know what's going to go up and what's going to go down. There's a huge window. The government has to understand the need for quick decisions, or the promised gift would be lost in poor sales, piled up inventory, operational headaches for business. On the other hand, companies could also invite government wrath if they hike prices now in anticipation of a fall so that they make higher margins and deny consumers a full benefit. So we are waiting and watching to see what happens. Remember, as I said earlier, it's not just a question of simplification and two slabs. It has to be accompanied by rationalization. We, again, as consumers, are focused on tax reduction, but Indian GST is plagued by bizarre distinctions which make headlines from time to time, and there's a meme fest, and we laugh, but it's serious for business. Take the roti paratha divide. Both are wheat based breads, but packaged frozen parathas attract 18% GST, but if sold as a humble roti, it's 5%. The differential slab, ruled in a appellate body, comes because you need to heat the frozen paratha. Although, if you ask me, most people also heat the roti even if they buy it in a plastic bag. But that's the decision. Then you remember the furor over popcorn and cream buns. The plain popcorn, loose variety, is taxed at 5%. Branded and packaged, it's 12%. If caramelized with sugar, then the good and simple tax goes up to 18%. Then the bun controversy, which required a businessman to apologize in public, very embarrassing. Plain buns, tax free. Cream buns, 18%. The cream itself, lower duty. Why and how does this happen, and who understands it? NJ Associates, a chartered accountant firm, has on its website, and I'm showing a link, a whole article saying GST food conundrum, where it attempts to explain and get us to understand why seemingly similar foods carry different taxes. They should not. There is no excuse. But they try to tell you why. Sweets are taxed at 5%, savories at 12%. Sweet is more dangerous, right? Or why ice cream in an ice cream parlor would be taxed at 18%, but only 5% in a restaurant. Why? Because the parlor apparently sells already manufactured ice cream. Don't ask me. I find it irrational. And it's not just irritating or amusing for businesses, it's a struggle to get it right, can lead to tax notices, harassment, even arrests. It's not as if the government is unaware that GST today is a far cry from one nation, one tax, good and simple, whatever slogan that you have heard. This was supposed to replace a jumble of excise, service tax, VAT, local levies into largely a dual structure with seamless input credit. That was a Kilker's task force recommendation. So the dual structure would comprise central GST, state GST, integrated GST. Initial slabs were ranged from 5 to 28%, with some special rates at 0.25 and 3%, and a compensation cess which made sin goods, alcohol, whatever, more expensive. A 5-year compensation mechanism, which ended in June 2022, had guaranteed sales of 14% annual revenue growth from 2015-16. This is also important. We'll come to it. In 2015, problems were already evident before the tax was launched. The Revenue Neutral Rate Committee, chaired by the Chief Economic Advisor Arvind Subramaniam, had argued for what has now been promised by the PM. He said there should be a merit rate for essentials, standard rate for most goods and services, and a higher rate or demerit rate for sin goods. It also argued for simple classification, which would make compliance easy and avoid litigation. Hasn't happened because our bureaucrats don't believe in it. What we have instead are 5 slabs: 0, 5, 12, 18, and 28. Along with this, there are cesses and there are special rates. Worse, we have absurd hyper technical distinctions like the roti, paratha, popcorn, whatever, which leads to controversy. Litigation has to be settled by a court, will you believe it, instead of the government deciding. The Kelkar committee had warned about this, and there were caveats. It was naturally ignored like everything else. That is why we are looking at the Diwali gift and praying. Now let's come to the reform blueprint. Even as I do this video, the GST Council proposals are already being discussed in the media very widely. It is expected that GST will now have three classifications: a basic 5% merit list, which is going to comprise most, hopefully, most essentials: food, garment, medicine, which has been taxed at 12% today, and hopefully insurance, utilities, etc., which have a high 18% tax. Frankly, unfair. 18% on your telephones, mobiles, electricity, gas. Why? We are already paying so much of tax, most of us. Almost everything else is in the 18% tax bracket, with some items like refrigerators, televisions expected to drop from 28% to 18%. That's why people are waiting. 10% is not to be laughed at. Few categories like tobacco, alcohol, super luxury cars, they say will actually go up from 28 to 40. I don't know what's going to happen because they are sinful, and this can have serious implications for some industry. You can't go out and have that tipple anymore. It's going to pinch. Meanwhile, certain products like jewelry and precious metals will remain under 1%. Big question is, will GST 2.0 go beyond pruning rates and settle the confusion over categorization as well as revenue share with states? Remember, states get 50% of GST revenue, 28% goes to the center. 8 opposition rule states, and many of them are the ones where sales are higher, have already warned that any reduction in GST could lead to a 15 to 20% revenue loss to them, which can impact welfare spending. It's very likely that this may be short because it also boosts consumption. But if it happens, they need to be compensated without allowing it to blow up into a controversy that causes delays. Because each day of delay is already costing business and industry. And since their festival production and inventory planning, pricing, and marketing campaigns are in limbo, sales experts will tell you that deferred decisions don't always materialize. The problem is, it may not matter to bureaucrats if you decide not to buy the TV this year. They are satisfied that the latest numbers show a 6.5% growth in GST collections year on year, with domestic collection showing a robust 9.6%, which means we're just paying higher and higher tax. It is impacting our purchasing, but they're looking at the numbers. And remember, this 9.6 offsets lower import collection. So, to sum it up, if the PM's Diwali gift is to be delivered to us, the GST Council must act with urgency and coherence, slash nonsensical classifications, clarify timelines, empower businesses to plan now. Otherwise, this season's cheer could just turn into confusion, disappointment, and delay economic vitality. If you agree, do share this video and definitely subscribe. Thank you.